this point in time, well, like I said, when we would go sell CDs up there at the Citgo. Right. You were working with a group named Slaughterhouse based out of Frankfort. So, how did you meet George Slaughter, and how was that relationship?
So that came about. Shout out to my man Verb. I knew this kid named Verb, right? He knew I made beats. I
remember Verb.
Yeah, Verb. And I remember he used to hit me up, and he used to listen to beats or whatever. And he would, back then, he would just take the beats. He would be like, yo, I'm working with this group. I was like, all right, cool, here's some beats, whatever. And he would take them back. But he would always come back and be like, oh, you got any more beats?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And one day, I think it was kind of like, yo, man, take me, where are you taking these beats at?
Yeah.
So I need to go see, right? So he takes me, and I meet this dude named Slaw, this dude named George. And I remember George telling me one time, so I worked with them in the studio that they had, and in the kind of the trade off was like, yo, if I'll give y'all beats if you let me and this group called FG come record.
Shout out FG.
You know what I'm saying? That was my man Maine and Roger, and those was my brothers. So I was like, yo, let us record, and I'll give y'all beats. And I remember I'm gonna keep it 100. I used to truck their sessions
all the time.
Right. So I used to go. We used to go up there because they rappers was cool, but Maine and Raj was killing them. Right. So I used to pull up, and I'd be like, I used to save all the dope beats for myself. And they had equipment too, though. They had production equipment, so I would go up there and make beats. But then I would be like, yeah, this one's for me and FG. Yeah. Right. And then they would come record, but. I remember one time Slaw was building a studio in Frankfort, and I remember he was like, yo, I really want to work with you, and I was like, all right, that's cool, like, what do you want to do? And you gotta understand, like, back then producers, well, myself, I wasn't selling beats, I was just bartering beats, like, for studio time.
Right.
So he was like, I don't know, man. Shit, I'll probably spend like $3,000 with you. And you gotta understand, this is back in the early 2000s.
3,000.
So 3,000 was like, what? Like, what 3 what? And he was like, yeah, about 3,000. I was like, okay, say less. You know what I'm saying? So I just started giving him beats, and I would show up to his studio, and I would just make beats all day, and he would do business with me. So he was the introduction for Jon Woo. Understanding business and what your self-value is what your self-worth is, because he was the first person to turn me on to that.
Slaw was a big dude too, like linebacker dude.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
6'7".
Super cool. But the thing about it, man, his knowledge for outside of music and everything else is so deep too. You know what I mean? Dude's a very knowledgeable dude, man. Cool dude, man.
Sure. I definitely would credit him as being the person who turned me on to the business side of, because he's the first person to ever do that kind of business with me. I mean, you got to think, bro. He gave me 3 bands for some beats, and I remember I got into a car wreck. You know what I'm saying? Like, not even a car wreck. My friend backed into a homegirl's car of mine. Shout out to Kayla. It was my homegirl Kayla King.
Yeah, shout out Kayla.
No, it was actually me. I was in a rental, and I was leaving a crib where we was all hanging out, and it was dark, and I backed into her car. And so I was like, oh shit. Like, and at the time, I kind of had a crush on Kayla, whatever. So I was like, damn, you feel me? So I went to George and was like, yo, I remember I had the attitude of like, give me the money now. I need it now. Or there's no beats, nigga. That's the attitude I had. And I remember he was like, okay, cool, what you need? I was like, I need it. And he just gave me the money. Right. And it blew my mind, bro. It was like, I never knew somebody could do business with you like that. And so that kind of introduced me to the fact of like, oh, this is this is business. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to George,
So during that time, were all your beats going to them, or were to them first, or did they go on the market for sale?
At that time, no, I wasn't selling them. It was just
still wasn't selling.
Yeah, because at that time you got to think it was really no internet. It wasn't nothing like that. So I was going to their studio. I was their in-house producer, and I started producing tracks for all of his artists.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We did a lot of music together.
Right. So after your run with them, where did you go, and what were your plans to continue in music?
With them, I think I should mention, like, with them, I ended up meeting. So there's this lady named Wendy Day. Okay. If anybody knows who Wendy is,
I know who Wendy Day is.
You should look her up.
I heard her before. Yeah.
Very influential person in the hip hop community.
Yep.
She liked our music, and her and George worked something out. Then she came down to consult for us. So when she came, she was like, "Where your producers at?" And they was like, "Yo, this is just him." And she was like, "Oh, he's making all the beats." And she's like, "Yeah." So me and her got cool, and she wrote out a marketing strategy for the group. Now, mind you, this is early 2000s.
Before the other Slaughterhouse that came out.
Way before the other Slaughterhouse. Now, a lot of people would ask me like where I kind of get my business sense from. Mm-hmm. You got to think, in early 2000, I got hip to a marketing strategy, right? And Wendy Day stayed for I think a week and went on the road with us and did like the first few things of the marketing strategy with us, and like she did it with us. And then the results that she said that we would get, I actually saw us get. Mm-hmm. She was right. So that just intrigued me on understanding the business, because I got hit with somebody who was trying to teach us the business side of it, and I saw it work for real.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it just made me want to learn that. So I produced for them for a while, and then outside of Wendy, when that situation was over, you know, George ended up getting locked up or whatever. I ended up having to just kind of pack my bags and move and keep it moving. At that time, I knew Native, mm-hmm. So I was working with Native a lot, who was plugged to Static, who introduced me to Static, and he was kind of the key person who introduced me to all the key players in Louisville, including Static.